this video is absolutely fascinating. Now, I can't find this anywhere else except for this video being posted on Twitter, but this is from MSNBC's Morning Joe. Now, what's interesting about Joe Scarborough is he's now an independent, but really he's still a Republican, but he was a Republican politician, and he seems to definitely have some sort of a soft spot, or I don't know, just some, fondness of Bernie Sanders. And so what you're going to see here is he's going to talk about how people are underestimating Bernie Sanders, how he can do amazing in this race. And then you're also going to see him have on this guy named Donny Detusch, who basically seems to be this neoliberal guy who has said that he would vote for Donald Trump over Bernie Sanders, which we'll get to in a second. But let's go ahead and hear this out.
You have a situation with Bernie Sanders, and we've seen the money where the media always underestimates Bernie Sanders. Always. They did in 2016. They have in 2020. So this actually is a stark reminder that we're making the same mistake again in 2020. He wins Iowa. He wins New Hampshire. He's got the momentum in California. You tell me, who else other than Joe Biden is going to be able to keep pace with this guy?
Well, so far, Joe, no one has the money that Bernie Sanders has. And California and Texas go quite closely together, those two primaries. So, yeah, as Mark spelled out, as you just alluded to, if he does well or wins Iowa, it appears he will win New Hampshire. Then he's got, because of the money, he's got a firm footing in California and in Texas. And it could well be that money will drive this factor. That's not a great thing, but it's the reality. And he could end up being the nominee by the middle of March. There's no doubt about it.
Joe, one cautionary...
Sam,
I'm sorry, sir.
Go ahead. Yeah.
One cautionary
Go
tale before we go all in on Bernie Sanders is so much, I think, the first round of Bernie Sanders was we are not anointing Hillary. And he was pretty much the only alternative. There are a lot of different alternatives at this point, and I do think somebody shiny, just the way Mayor Pete has jumped out, will go. And right. I'm really concerned. I think Bernie Sanders would lose in a landslide to Donald Trump.
Oh, I completely disagree, and I disagree because a lot of people who voted for Donald Trump said they would have voted for Bernie Sanders. You saw it in the New York Times, would have voted for Bernie Sanders if he had won the Republican nomination. Politics is a strange thing. I was talking about how Bobby Kennedy supporters went to vote for George Wallace. There are a lot of Trump voters that actually would be a lot more interested in Bernie Sanders than others. Sam Stein, though, I think if this analysis is onto something, and I think it is, we could have Bernie Sanders in the same position where Barack Obama was in 2008, thinking, if I win Iowa, then suddenly all the dominoes fall for me.
Wow, so this is pretty remarkable stuff, okay? There's a lot to look at there, right? So first of all, we just have to talk about Morning Joe, or Joe Scarborough, praising Bernie Sanders the way he has. Now, he definitely has done this consistently. I've seen him do it quite a bit. I'm not sure what it is that he likes so much about Bernie. Bernie's realness factor comes off for a lot of people. I would say the majority of people. I would say probably the biggest thing that comes off them is like, oh, he's a real dude. Like, he's real. He's real with me. Like, he's a legit guy, You see all these crafty, calculated politicians, and then you see Bernie, he's this chill guy who's, like, legit. You see a dude, you're like, oh, wow, he's like an actual guy. Like, he's not like a politically calculated machine or monster, you know what I'm saying? But, he's definitely had some affinity for him. So I'm not all that surprised. Now, I definitely am surprised as to the strength or emphasis or, whatever you want to call it, that he has and the energy he has in terms of his defense of Bernie Sanders. But that guy Donny that you just saw, he's a Bernie hater. And as I mentioned earlier, he said that he would vote for Donald Trump over Bernie Sanders and there's some people like this, right? Because there are rich people who are Democrats. They don't want to be hit by a wealth tax. They don't want to be paying higher taxes. They don't want to do any of that stuff. And so for them, these sort of neoliberal rich Democrats are going to have to make a decision. Oh man, do we go for Bernie or do we go for Trump? And there's going to be a good amount of them who do go for Trump, I would say. Like these rich folks. I think it was it Bill Gates who said that he wasn't decided between Warren and Trump or something like that? But, it's just remarkable to me because they're going to come into this sort of phase. And I love how he just shut down that guy, Donny. real quick, just kind of slapped him up real quick. The idea that Bernie Sanders would lose in a landslide is the most hilarious thing that I've ever heard. All of the general election polls in 2016 indicated that Bernie Sanders would demolish Donald Trump in an election. The biggest thing you have to recall is this, okay? He would win back the Rust Belt, okay? We don't even need swing states at this point. We just need the Rust Belt, okay? The blue wall, right? It's supposed to be the blue wall. And had Hillary won those 3 states, she would have emerged victorious, right? But she failed. Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. She failed to, secure those states. What is Bernie Sanders? Bernie Sanders is a protectionist. He wants to give them health care. He is somebody who will appeal to union workers in Pennsylvania or in Wisconsin or, the Rust Belt states. He's going to actually appeal to those folks, and so that's why he's going to get those supporters. And so hands down, he would win, dude. And Bernie doesn't have baggage. Like, he's not this uber-hated politician like Hillary Clinton was. It's pretty remarkable the job that Hillary Clinton did to lose to Donald Trump. Bernie Sanders would win in pretty much a landslide. I think he definitely takes Ohio, and whether or not he takes Florida, I really don't know. I'm not sure. It's kind of a toss-up. But he certainly takes back the Rust Belt, wins, it definitely wins easily. So that's absolutely hilarious. I'm glad Morning Joe kind of slapped him up. Now, on the last point where he speaks about, how Bernie could win Iowa and it be over, that's not true. He definitely can't just win Iowa and it be over. What would really, the biggest benefit to a Bernie Sanders primary campaign is this. If his vote share with the African American vote goes up, like if his percentage of the African American vote goes up, he doesn't even have to win it, dude. He doesn't even have to win the black vote, okay? He just has to be competitive. And just like that, he wins. If you guys remember the last election cycle, he got his clock cleaned in the South. He didn't win a single state in the South. Not only did he not win a single state in the South, he got demolished in every single southern state. He really got his, go back and look at the numbers. He got his clock cleaned. And that was what really, destroyed him. First of all, those were the early states at the time. Those were all the first states that would happen. But, that was what really set him down. So, for me, the game changer is how he performs in the southern states. If he performs well in the southern states, it's a game changer for Bernie Sanders. But definitely pretty sobering to see Morning Joe on MSNBC, of course, even though he's a Republican, praising Bernie Sanders in the fashion that he does.